That time I got reincarnated as a demon lord, English, by LordedoMal44. 24 power means life, Rigger-kun. Do you mind finishing the preparations by yourself? No, I don't mind, but what happened? I looked away, not sure how to answer Rigger's question. At some other time I might speak my real thoughts, but in the current situation this was impossible for me. After all, I don't want to spoil the night. How would I tell it was because of a bad feeling? It's just a moment. I have a woman problem. I didn't wait for Rigger to respond and just dropped the things I had on the table and walked away. I know it's rude of me since Rigger would be the person being honored today, but I couldn't calm down with this bad feeling in my chest. After all, this is the same feeling I felt that day. With that thought in mind, I felt as helpless as I had that day. I couldn't do anything at all that day, and as a result, he's gone. So I won't let the same thing happen again. After all, isn't that one of the reasons I'm so anxious after power? Power to revive him and bring him back so we can live a happy life in a fantasy world like this, where all things are possible. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm fighting. That's why I became strong. I won't let his sacrifice, who gave me a second chance to live that was already wasted, be wasted on my third chance. With that in mind, I ran out of town with all my might. Unfortunately, I didn't have one of the mounts with me like Rigger or Gobuta even having more than one mount nowadays, but I didn't care and forced my legs to go faster. This feeling I feel in my chest, something I am feeling for the third time in my life, has always foretold calamities. The first was when he left, the second was when he left, and now it's my third time. I won't let anything bad happen in my current life, not now that I have the happiness of all my companions within my grasp. The friends from my village and the friends I made later, Rigger and everyone else, they are all important to me. And, of course, Rimuru. He's important to me, I think. Who do I want to deceive? I've only felt what I'm feeling now for two people before, and the first was the most important person in my life while the second became the most important. And now that I don't have either, Rimuru, who reminds me of him, is just as important as both of them. As soon as I finished thinking about these things I arrived at the place where the bad feeling came from and, to my bad luck, I saw the scene of my nightmares repeating itself once again, before my eyes. A woman of priceless beauty, surrounded by an unnatural glow, pointed her hands towards the ground with the most powerful wind magic my extra skill, mage, had ever felt. Also, at the feet of this woman was a small creature, a small, fluffy, cheeky slime. I had no doubt that this was a dryad, who had used unification to unite with a superior spirit of the wind, and it didn't even take much thought to know who was the slime at her feet. There's only one person who's cheeky and stupid enough for the dryad herself to start hating him, and that's my dumb boss. But he was my dumb boss, and that's why I didn't want to see him die. But she fired the spell without giving me a chance to stop it. The strongest magic I've seen in my life, magic, something I've always looked up to, and that was now being used to take an important person away from me. And in that situation, all I could do was scream in desperation. Rimuru, trainee smirked at the way the slime before her clearly allowed itself to die, something she was grateful for. Her strength is greater than his, it was a fact, and no matter if he tried to resist, trainee would be able to defeat him. Despite that, trainee wasn't so arrogant as to ignore the danger that this slime's strength posed. A creature capable of feeding on every monster in the forest and acquiring some of its skills, if not all of its skills, was the greatest threat the forest has ever seen, one that would equal the danger of an orc lord. Because of that, trainee knew that letting this slime live any longer would end up being a big threat. She'd seen every one of the monsters he'd devoured so far, the strength he had growing at the most unnatural rate possible, and if he got to her in the trance, then there would be nothing left for trainee but surrender. Among the slimes she killed over the centuries following her master's order, the first time trainee understood what her master said when she commented that slimes were dangerous was probably now. That slime in front of her was the most dangerous creature she had ever met. If left free, this slime could become as strong as she is in a few weeks, with just a few successful hunts for the strongest creatures in this forest, and if he took in ogres as his subordinates would become an unstoppable army. That's why she would eliminate him now, Aerial Blade. With the scream that left her mouth, the wind magic she carried in her hand was triggered. The strongest wind spirit magic she was able to use in her and Sylphid's combined form. A spell that would unleash a barrage of strong, fast-moving wind blades that would tear her enemy apart, and not even the slime before her could resist a thing like this. And at the same time that she released Rimuru, a cry from a desperate woman came from the direction of the city. Although they must have been too far out of town for anyone to see Rimuru, what looked like one of his subordinates had walked out of town and had approached. Trainee easily remembered who the goblina in front of her was, the only unnamed one among Rimuru's subordinates and the strongest of all the goblins in this forest. She was a unique individual that Trainee has watched over since she was born, confident that this goblina could become one of the great figures in the forest one day. And yet, the desperate look that was on her face made it clear that she too had knelt to the unholy slime. Trainee was a little disappointed to see this, but she would just need to eliminate her along with the slime. It was a shame to lose a unique being who could do so much good for the entire forest, but eliminating that slime was more important and Trainee wouldn't hesitate to do just that. As she thought about that, her magic finally hit the slime's body and an absurd amount of damage was dealt. The impact had been anything but gentle, distorting his body, followed by the blades that had sliced away and torn apart every part of the slime's body little by little. Trainee, immediately after confirming that the slime had been hit, shifted her hands towards the goblina, attempting to use her magic to kill her. Letting her, an exceptionally strong individual among the goblins, get out of here alive would be like asking for a mighty resistance from the goblins, and that would make it difficult to do what she had promised Rimuru. Just eliminate it and ask the ogres to do the rest, they'll take care of it. And when she prepared to fire her aerial blade a second time. Where do you think you're looking? A voice coming from something below her woke her to reality. Turning her gaze to the source of the voice, the battered slime body of a slime that barely appeared to be able to maintain its shape came into view. Although it was clearly too damaged to survive, the slime just followed her, moving around as it gathered its spells in front of it like magic. I'm sorry, but I'll stay alive. I have promises to keep, demon lords who to take down and subordinates whom I must protect. As soon as he said that, Trainee felt scared, not because of the slime itself. Trainee was still confident that she could beat the slime in a battle no matter what kind of skills he tried to use against her. She was the most powerful creature in the entire Jura forest, after all, she couldn't lose. Yet the amount of magicules the slime was gathering at once and the power that magic gave off were beyond comprehension. It was on a different level than the slime had shown so far, a level that Trainee would expect to see only her master possessing, not this lil slime. And with the loud scream, the slime released words that scared Trainee even more. Stormy Blade. Trainee planned to defend or deflect such magic, but she didn't even have time for that. The forces left Trainee's body along with the impact of magic, a power frightening and beyond comprehension, just as expected. The speed with which the magic moved, the force of the impact, the blades ripping through her body, in each of these matters the slime made the damage Trainee dealt against him come back to her tenfold. It was a mistake to think of defending or deflecting it. The moment it was cast, nothing that got in the way of such magic would come out unscathed, everything would be doomed to destruction. Trainee's temporary physical body created from the extra skill, unification, crumbled within a millisecond after impact, which separated Trainee and Sylphid and reduced their power. This only served to further increase the damage they would both take, hit by such powerful magic. And then, Trainee lost consciousness. Her spirit form must have been destroyed due to the force of magic, causing her to return to her tree. It will likely take weeks before all the necessary power has been gathered, only then will Trainee regain spirit form and be able to walk through the forest. Until then, Trainee will be trapped in her tree. Somehow this slime, weaker than her, had temporarily killed the dryad. Somehow, I survived. And this time I owe it to you, Sage. Thanks for helping me. Less than you're welcome. Greater than I really thought I was going to die. How did I survive that attack? Magic, of course. Well, actually, instead of magic it would be right to say that it was my battle spirit that allowed me to survive. Applying the martial art, spiritual armor, I created for Rigurdo, a fist-wielding close-range fighter, I focused my aura on defending Trainee's magic attack. Of course, if I just used my aura normally, my defense wouldn't mean anything against that attack. The magic she used was truly frightening. The power of a higher spirit really is on another level. That's why I talked to her, better, hooked her up for as long as I could. I needed to buy myself more time to put this plan into action so I could use it against her, which was why I kept talking without showing any sign of hostility. Using Predator, I stored my aura inside my stomach, gathering an even greater amount than I would normally be able to gather in one go. With that, the spiritual armor I used was so powerful that it could contain half the strength of the skill, Black Lightning, and come out almost harmless from receiving this type of attack. And despite that, the damage I took from Trainee's magic was over 95%. Even for a second, if I hadn't gathered the necessary aura, I would have been instantly killed by a single blow. This one was close. Very close. The good news, it confirmed for me that my body, at least for a few seconds, works even if I take 95% damage, and I didn't even feel any side effects that there might be. That's a big step forward. My HP is something scary and useful at the same time. As my body continued to function, I activated Predator, performing 2 of its functions at the same time. I made my skill devour the parts of the body that were damaged, replacing them the moment after the damage and, with the exception of the parts that were cut off and sent away, I was able to regenerate my body. And at the same time, I had Predator analyze the magic Trainee cast against me. Honestly, it was the longest 10 minutes of my life, the result of speeding up my thoughts, but in the end my results were even better than I expected. The sage analyzed and optimized the magic I received, Aerial Blade, and converted it into a superior version based on the skill, Storm Magic. Aerial Blade magic evolved into Stormy Blade magic, the newest of my storm spells. Oh, and forget about casting Storm Magic once or twice in a fight. If the control hadn't been necessary for me to maintain my consciousness after the attack, I would have lost consciousness with the Stormy Blade that was only 10% of its total capacity. These spells are simply off the scale. But with that, I got it. I destroyed Trainee's physical body, forcing her unification with Sylphid to end, and the spell continued to deal fixed damage to her. Although I couldn't absorb Trainee's body, since according to the sage the Dryad's spirit had returned to the tree that was her true body, I still had a big gain from this battle. Less than warning. The Wind Superior Spirit Sylphid is now successfully isolated. Analysis is finished. All skills of the higher spirit of the wind can be used, greater than. Yes, I think this could be called a victory. I lost 95% of my HP and 99% of my MP. Yes, but that was definitely our victory, mine and the sage's. Less than. Greater than. Cheer up, friend. I wouldn't have made it without you. Rimuru. Are you okay? Are you hurt? What was that? Why did the Dryad want to kill you? What did you do this time? And what? I cut off Petulant Coon before she could continue, knowing that if I didn't, she probably wouldn't stop talking. I was tired and I wanted to rest, but seeing the expression on her face and all the sweat leaving her body, there was only one thing I could do. I threw myself at Petulant Coon, wrapping part of her body in a slime hug? I think it's a good term. Thanks for worrying, Petulant Coon. I'm fine, just a little tired. Could you carry me back to town? We have a festival to attend? I was lying, I wasn't fine at all. Even now, Predator was going through the process of devouring my damaged cells and fixing them, and since less than 5% of what's left is operational, the process is going to be time-consuming. Also, I have few of my magicules left, which means that even containing Sylphid inside me is a pain. Absorbing it so it can be a mission impossible. So just leave everything in the hands of my dear Petulant Coon and enjoy a ride in the comfortable lap seat. And Petulant Coon's lap seat is definitely comfortable and the best I could ask for right now. Ha 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 ha. You don't change. Even when you're on the verge of death you think about perverted things. Petulant Coon said that, laughing while at the same time crying, probably one of the effects of letting the tension out of her body. Now, a little calmer, the petulant and regardless Goblina picked me up, supporting me firmly in her arms and against her body. She must have done this a little aware that I couldn't keep my shape properly at the moment, so I appreciate it. With that, we both returned to the city. To our city. Yes, without a doubt. I need to become stronger to defend my subordinates. And Petulant Coon too.